This conference will now be recorded.
Good evening, everyone. I want to call to order the meeting of the Town Commission on March 6, 2023 at 6 p.m. Thank you to those that are listening to our live audio feed. Just a reminder that those that wish to make public comments during the meeting are encouraged to attend in person in our chambers or send their comments to the town clerk prior to the meeting. Would we rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm just going to wait for this because it's a moment of silence. All right, with everybody, please join us as we take a moment of silence in memory of our dear Dorothy Taylor, who recently passed away. We will remember Dorothy. I know Sarah's back there and grandson. We'll remember Dorothy as one hell of a gal. We'll miss her. All right then. Are there any additions, deletions?
Roll call.
Oh yeah, we got to take the roll call. Kelly, would you take the roll call, please?
Commissioner Vichelette?
Here.
Commissioner Cos?
Here.
Vice Mayor DeHassen?
Present.
Mayor Susan Hobart?
Here.
And Commissioner Pugh, for the record, is absent without notice.
All right, good to go. Now, are there any additions, deletions, modifications to the agenda?
Yes, Madam Mayor. A couple of things. You have in front of you a supplemental piggyback contract that we would like to add to the consent agenda with CAPGov for building official services as an interim contract until we can hire a full-time in-house building official. I spoke with Judson Delaney this afternoon. They are able to provide us someone full-time and potentially as soon as Wednesday to work with Durrani for the last few days that he is here. And then moving forward from that as building official, doing the building official's duties, plans examination, things like that. Hybrid does not have the staffing right now to assist us under our current contract.
All right, are we going to make that item number 5?
4E.
4E?
4E. And then the other item would be to remove item number 5. I did email the commissioners about that this morning. I spoke with Billy this morning and had gotten some feedback from several of the commissioners as well as some residents about this item. And we are going to go back to FDEP and see if there is an alternative that is more environmentally friendly, less invasive to the dunes, that will provide us a way to keep the sand from eroding there without putting in a full-scale structure or we move forward with anything at this time.
Okay, perfect. Anything else? Any other?
Madam Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
on that item, just so you know, we discussed in our one-on-one meetings that there have been some improvements made that were not permitted by the town. My recommendation is to perhaps have a discussion item to maybe add that later to the commission's agenda, to give direction to staff regarding those unauthorized improvements, just because from our discussion, it sounds like those improvements may not be safe and may create a trip hazard.
So should we put this here?
Just leave it.
Right?
For discussion.
Okay, sorry, discussion item. All right, so,
Can I just had one quick
Yes.
question? I'm glad we're able to piggyback off of CAP. I just wanted to ask Mr. Guy, are you happy with that selection?
Yes, that would be an acceptable solution.
Thank you.
all right. Any other changes, amendments? All right, I'll entertain a motion on the approval of the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, vote carries. All right, now we have presentations and proclamations. Kelly?
We have a couple of proclamations. First one is the Government Finance Professionals Week of March 20 to the 24th, 2023. Whereas Florida Government Finance Officers Association is a professional association founded in 1937 and serves more than 3,300 professionals from state, county, and city governments, school districts, colleges, and universities, special districts, and private firms. And whereas the FGFOA is dedicated to being a professional resource by providing opportunities through education, networking, leadership, and information. And whereas the Government Finance Professionals Week, sponsored by the FGFOA and all of its member governmental organizations, is a week-long series of activities aimed at recognizing government finance professionals and the vital services that they provide to our state and our community. And whereas during this week, government finance professionals throughout the state of Florida will be acknowledged for their hard work, dedication, and leadership. Now therefore, I, Susan Herbola, as mayor, and on behalf of the other commissioners, do hereby proclaim March 20 to the 24th, 2023 as Government Finance Professionals Week in the town of Ocean Ridge, and extend our appreciation to all government finance professionals throughout the state and here in the county of Palm Beach for their hard work, dedication, and leadership.
Thank you very much. Next.
We have another proclamation.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the town of Ocean Ridge takes special notice and acknowledges exceptional organizations that help residents who live, work, and play within the jurisdiction. And whereas in 2010, Digital Vibes was founded to reach out to underserved youth in Palm Beach County by empowering them through the dance, fitness, technology, and the arts. And whereas Digital Vibes partners with the Palm Beach Health Foundation annually to host the Let's Move Commit to Change Physical Activity Challenge, a countywide initiative that focuses on physical activity, nutrition, and healthy behaviors. And whereas Digital Vibes and Palm Beach Health Foundation present the annual challenge, which takes place annually from March 1st to 31st, and encourages individuals within and beyond Palm Beach County to take charge of their health by participating in fun fitness exercises. And whereas the Let's Move initiative was originally introduced on a national level by First Lady Michelle Obama in 2010 with the goal of decreasing childhood obesity throughout the United States due to the fact that nearly 1 in 3 children in the United States are overweight or obese, and if this problem persists, 1/3 of all children born in 2000 or later will suffer from diabetes at some point in their lives, or will face other obesity-related health problems such as heart disease, high blood pressure, asthma, and cancer. And whereas Digital Vibes and the Palm Health Foundation invite all residents to take the challenge to move by forming teams, registering online, committing to exercising for at least 30 minutes a day throughout the month of March, and logging their minutes on the Let's Move website, www.letsmovepbc.org. In 2012, Palm Beach County logged 100,000 minutes in the first year of the challenge, and we have met the challenge each year, rising in 2020 to over 59 million minutes logged. Now therefore, I, Susan Herbert, Mayor of Ocean Ridge, do hereby proclaim the month of March as Let's Move Palm Beach County Month, and urge all citizens to join us in moving to improve their fitness, mental health, and overall health.
Thank you, Kelly. So we'd like to introduce Trevor Fleming, who is the outreach coordinator for Congresswoman Lois Frankel's office. I spoke with Trevor at Lois's office, asking him if he could come in and talk to us about some grant funding for our various infrastructure and environmental projects in the future.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioner, Town Manager, for having me here this evening. As said before, my name is Trevor Fleming. I work here in the Delray Beach District Office for Congresswoman Lois Frankel. And I just wanted to kind of share a few things that we've been seeing as far as federal grants go. So as we all know, federal grants is an excellent source of funding for a wide variety of projects and initiatives. They're designed to help individuals, businesses, organizations, cities, county, anyone to be able to get funding for a various amount of projects. So my first thing I wanted to start off with is that my main process with going around with looking for grants would be through grants.gov. It has most of the information on there. The searching function is relatively good in terms of what you're looking for. You tend to find it within the keywords as long as you're searching correctly. So with the grants that I spoke with Mayor beforehand about, I did see a few that may be interesting to the city or the town, I should say. And to start off with, there will be multiple new grant opportunities popping up throughout the rest of the year, some available now, based on the new infrastructure bill, the most recent congressional initiatives and legislations they just passed. one including the pre-disaster mitigation program for this fiscal year. This is the Department of Homeland Security. The funding went through last year for projects as it relates to stormwater, drainage, sewage systems to build community resilience against future flooding. And as we had on a previous meeting earlier today, it's pretty important to keep in mind that when it comes to grants, you get relatively creative with what you're asking for to make it kind of fit what they're looking for to give out. So with that being said as well, the EPA is also doing a grant program for state and tribal assistance grants, short is for STAG, for the Clean Water and Drinking Water State Revolving Funds. This is one of the grants that does actually require a small portion of matching, about 20%. The money doesn't need to be on hand immediately, but you would need to show basically how you would get to that figure in order to receive the grants. For example, that's one way the town of Lantana actually ended up getting their water main repair through this grant initiative. So another one would be the project investing in coastal communities and climate resiliency. It's putting aside at least $2.6 billion over the next 5 years to assist with conservation, restoration, and protection of coastal communities and marine habitats and resources, among other activities. The Department of Housing and Urban Development has an Economic and Development Initiative, EDI for short, which includes water or sewage infrastructure projects, which may not be otherwise eligible from the STAG grants that I just spoke about. So really and truly, it's about kind of looking through and casting a wide net when it comes to getting funding from the federal government. So I feel that these grants would be somewhere to start for the city. And I would be remiss to actually mention that this week, we'll be going through the community project funding process. It is one way basically for members of Congress to specifically fund local projects. That includes nonprofits, municipalities, county, for once again, a wide variety of projects. But it is also very important for me to mention, it is on a quick turnaround time. It is due by March 14th. I will say that overall, and to be fair, they really did just give us this warning from about a week ago in this case. So everything moves really quickly, unfortunately, Congress, until it moves slow. So to just kind of give you just a few examples of kind of what we have already funded in the last 2 years of this project, would be the city of Boynton Beach actually received $1 million for a new radio tower. It's important for their emergency communications for the police department and fire emergency. The city of Delray Beach got $3.5 million for improvements for their water treatment. I believe they're going to be using it on the water treatment plant. So that is some money that's going to be going towards that project. It will be more expensive, but in this case, we're able to put some type of money towards it. And lastly, the town of Lantana just recently received $1.2 million for engineering, design, bidding, and construction management. So it could be relatively broad. And I would also say, as far as grants go, I know that federal, county might be a little different, but this is about a 1 to 2 page application process. It's relatively simple. We're just really looking, or I can't speak for the Congresswoman, but generally they look for projects that could be relatively simple, but show that it's a project that you're working on, something that would be important to the community, of improving the community. That's the important piece for the most part. So in general, when it comes to federal grants, it's important just to be clear, concise, compelling. It's really important to show how this is going to help the community. In general, there is letters of support that can be very useful from the community in general, whether it be your nonprofit organizations, even another city. If they see that this is something that's going to be an improvement to the city, they would. It helps out with how the competitive nature of how this grants work. So it's also really important, as I've already somewhat said, is to show the impact of the project when you're going to be doing it, how it's going to help the community, any type of data collection, analysis, any reporting that could be used in your favor for grants. It really gives you a leg up. So it could be competitive. It could be a lengthy process in general for most federal grants. So with the right strategy and approach, it's possible to secure the funding for your community, as long as you can show how positive of an impact it will have for your community. So it really takes time to choose the right grant programs, create a compelling application, and demonstrate your capacity to deliver meaningful results. In our experience, we do notice that smaller municipalities tend to partner up with each other in terms of grant writing. So Town of Palm Beach, Manhattan, et cetera, tend to use sometimes even the same grant writer. So that helps kind of give you into a pool where you're almost looking for somewhat of the same projects at times. And it's important to note, as I probably said earlier with the federal grants, they can come from a variety of agencies. You generally think of EPA when you think of water, but it could easily come from the Department of Interior or something else. So don't get used to dissuaded from whichever department it's coming from. I'd be remiss to say, actually, we were speaking with the USDA. They do have grants available for water as well. But even if somehow you do not fit into the grant profile, depending on the application and the project, they are willing to give out loans of about 1% for the project that you're looking for. So there's many ways of going about this. It's just about casting a wide net and making sure that you are basically putting your town out there so that you have an option and potentially a chance at getting this funding. So also, I know I said earlier with the mayor, but the state representative, state senator, they're now in session for Florida legislature. It's really important to speak with them, let them know what your project is, what you need to be working on, and see if there's anything you guys can collaborate on. So outside of that, I would say it's best to have a good staff that's able to keep your eye out there on grants.gov. Basically for any current or upcoming opportunity, I'll also be as much of a resource as I can be sending them out, just so you guys are aware of what's out there at the time. But I wanted to keep it short, so I really appreciate you guys. Thank you for having me. And I wish you guys nothing but the best for these upcoming opportunities.
Thank you, Trevor. Let me just ask you that last time we spoke, I remember Ms. Frankel talking about having some sort of grant writing seminars for the smaller municipalities like ourselves that don't have that staff.
Right.
So we're working on that?
We are working on that. You know, it's unfortunately, we were really focused on moving forward with the grant seminar. It's just the community project funding really popped up.
Right.
So it's so crazy having to go through so many different projects from nonprofits, municipalities, that might occupy for our next week. But after that, we'll get right back on it.
Excellent.
So.
Keep us in the loop, and we really appreciate it.
Absolutely. We appreciate you.
Thank you so
Excellent
much.
to see you again, as always.
Absolutely.
Do you have that 1 to 2 page community project funding application?
So it's actually available on frankel.house.gov.
Okay, thank you.
I believe it should be on the front page where they have like a few icons on the right-hand side. But if not, just type it into the search bar and it should pop up. So it is online.
Okay.
It makes it easy.
If not, I'll be using this.
Absolutely. Feel free.
Thank you.
Perfect. Anybody else have any questions for Trevor?
Thank you very much.
Thank you guys.
Very
Is there
informative.
a maximum amount for the community project funding?
Technically, it is $10 million depending on the department. I will say that in general, as far as I can remember, I think the highest is that we've seen get approved is about 5 million. So with the new legislature this time, I would say that, you know, depending on the project, I think the right area would probably be 1 to 3 million. I think that's more realistic based on what we've seen in the past. But don't be afraid to ask for more, because
That's right.
at the end of the day, you never know. You'll come back with an offer, they'll come back with an offer.
Can't say yes if you don't ask.
Correct.
All right, anything else? Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate. Give our best to Lois.
Thank you guys. I hope
I
that was
look forward to
helpful.
see you soon.
Absolutely.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right then, Town Clerk Avery, would you please read the announcements?
The meeting schedule for the next month is as follows. Regular Town Commission meeting Monday, April 3rd at 6 p.m. Board of Adjustment meeting Wednesday, March 15th at 9 a.m. Planning and Zoning Commission meeting Monday, March 20th at 8 a.m. And the Infrastructure Surtax Committee will meet immediately following the Planning and Zoning Commission on Monday, March 20th. The annual municipal election will be held on March 14th, 2023. There are 2 Town Commission seats open for a 3-year term. Qualified candidates appearing on the ballot are Carolyn Cassidy, Susan Herbert, and Martin Eschler. Residents who wish to sign up to receive important town notifications and news through Civic Ready should sign up on the town's website or call Town Hall for assistance. And now we have a statement from Chief Richard Jones.
So thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to speak for just a moment. I wanted to make everyone who's not aware that I have resigned. So effectively, I am working towards my final days in Ocean Ridge. During my 9 years of working in Ocean Ridge, I have been involved in many projects and have had the opportunity to interact with a vast majority of the residents. And I have had a lot of support from you all, and I personally appreciate that. And I thank each of you for your active participation in the community. Most recently, I've had the opportunity, obviously, to serve as your chief for the last 16 to 17 months. And during that short period of time, we have done a whole lot of things with the police department and the town in general. I just wanted to name a few to give you all an idea of what I've done as a police chief and obviously as an IT director as well. So most recently, we've had the opportunity to complete the sign project for Old Ocean and North Ocean Boulevard. I know that's been a long time coming, but it's now done. We've had the opportunity to start our first portion of EMT training, which happened last month here in the commission chambers. So now all of our police officers are basic life support certified individuals. We've had the opportunity to install a generator. Both our main generator for Town Hall has now been replaced, and a redundant backup generator has been installed to support dispatch in the event of a failure of our primary generator. We've never had that redundant level of operation within the town. That is now 100% operational. As far as IT services go, we have rebuilt the network for Town Hall and the police department. We've installed redundant servers that support one another and back up redundantly to one another. We have deployed new mobile devices to every police car, allowing for technology in the field to help policing, obviously. We have gone completely paperless in the police department, and we are the only agency in Palm Beach County that has done that. We have developed and installed a new records management system that cost the town $0. We've created redundant internet, both on fiber, Comcast, and cellular service connections, so that we now have no downtime in the event we have a failure in dispatch. As well as we've completely remodeled the dispatch center to create a live, real-time crime center type environment. And that project is now completely done as of Friday of last week. And many, many more. Those are all things that would not have been capable of being completed if it weren't for the support of the residents. And so thank you all very much for that. And as I work towards my final days here, I will be appointing Lieutenant McClure as the acting chief for the remainder of my time here so that I can focus on finishing the IT projects and he can start the transition as the acting chief of police and help the town as permanent solutions may need to be discussed for the replacement of the police chief. So, Scott, are you in the back?
Yep, I can see, oh, there he is.
Usually he's taller than everybody.
Yeah, we didn't see
So if everybody would just recognize Scott and thank him for taking on the challenge. And I appreciate the time to speak and thank you all very much again.
Can't thank you enough. All right, since I forgot to move it, we will now open the floor for public comment on any item not listed on the agenda. Ms. Brown?
You get 6 minutes if I follow her.
No.
So, Lucy Brown, Harbor Drive South. I am here to talk about something very important to the town, and it has bipartisan appeal, and that is turtles. It is sea turtle season. Turtles, sea turtles, they're on our logo. Look on the chief's arm. I mean, right? We really care about them in this town. We have only, as far as I know, 2 important ordinances to help protect these threatened and endangered species that come to our beaches. One is no lights on the beach during turtle season. And the other is no dogs on the beach during turtle season. And you've heard me talk about how I think it's important to enforce the ordinances we have. I mean, everyone knows we don't enforce that, but for turtle season, we could do it. And I commend Chief Jones because I saw him tell a resident with a dog halfway down the steps to the beach that no, gently but firmly tell that person there are no dogs on the beach during turtle season. So let's be bipartisan and all support turtles. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next.
Well, I'm gonna talk a little bit about sea turtles also, because the folks at, the 152 property got a permit finally from Delaney Guy to fix their deck and their stairs, and they're so happy. But they have lights, solar lights that come on at night. Now, I don't know whose responsibility is when they drive by there and see the lights level of the dune shining at night. They come on, because they're solar. So someone needs to, and I know you have names because you have 27 names on that permit. So someone needs to tell them that the lights need to go off from March to October. And it's been bothering me a lot because I drive by there and I see them. The other thing with those folks, they did get a permit, but they have a sign in the road right of way. Now, it's one of those ugly red and white signs, private property, no trespassing, and then they have one on the gate. So I don't know how many signs you need, but this one's in the walkway. I know we had a committee to try to make the road safer. To step off, you'd step off right into that sign and trip and fall. It needs to be gone. The other thing I wanted to mention is related again to Chief Jones. I had mentioned to him an issue on the Corinne crossover to the beach from Old Ocean, which was a safety, security, and potentially a liability for the town. And he immediately talked to the town manager, and it's been taken care of. He just reported to me that the hedge has been taken care of and cut. They were real high, and you couldn't see around the curve. So that, again, we are going to be lost without this guy. I mean, really. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else? Charles? Right behind you, sir.
Alan.
I had a longer walk. Charles Kittler, 35 Hersey Drive. I do believe if you have lights on overnight, and I've been up early in the morning during certain times during turtle season, if you have red lights, which won't interfere with the turtles.
They're not red. They're
Well,
white.
that's all I need to do. Red spray paint, it's taken care of. But there are red lights on the beach at several locations down by our house. So I've witnessed that. The turtle people go by, don't say anything. When the turtle people are riding in dark, guess what lights they have on? Red lights.
Yeah, but this is not red lights, so get it straight.
I'm just telling you, that's
You
the
can yell.
solution, Terry.
He's teasing.
Not the problem.
All right, next. We hear you, Charles. Next.
Hi, I'm Alan Waters, and 6059 Old Ocean Boulevard. First of all, I would suggest maybe truncating to the whole second. It's a little, you can do that with settings. Anyway, I'm here to talk about something that, actually I represent the neighborhood. There's 6 of us from Anna Street to the south on Old Ocean Boulevard. We've all been communicating with each other. We know a few of you. We have, in the last month or so, become aware of a change, an ordinance that was passed in 2020, and it was, I guess, Action 2020-05. It has to do with the coastal construction line and changes to how properties can be developed relative to the coastal construction line. There are lots of things in that chain of those changes, but one is of particular concern to us, all of us, and which is that when calculating the how much you can build on a lot, you've now excluded from the calculation of lot size and usable land area all of that area lying east of the 79 coastal construction line. Now, my home is not that big. It's about 2,300 square feet or 2,400 square feet. If my home washed away, I could rebuild an 1,100 square foot home. Everybody in the neighborhood is in this same situation. Wow. that's a significant taking of property rights with no compensation, I believe. And I really think that you should place on your agenda for your next meeting to take a look at that language and see how it impacts individual residences along the coastal line. I'm all for protecting the dunes. We had a dune. I loved our dune. And unfortunately, our dune went away through a storm. And so we had to put up a seawall. You know, I miss our dune, but it's gone. And nothing I do on my property now is going to affect the dune because it's not there anymore. Couple ways to fix this. You could grandfather the homes in that neighborhood, and maybe you should look elsewhere too. I don't know. You could, say it doesn't apply to homes that, already have a seawall, whatever you want to do with it. But I think it really does need to be repaired. And, unfortunately, I think that some of us may, have to eventually resort to legal action if the town can't just fix it. But I think it will, because I think it's reasonable to do so. As a second item, just real quick, I see that agenda item 13 would go to the town.
Sir, you're
and say-
right there at your end of time, but I'll give you another minute by all means.
Okay, yeah, require a supermajority vote, but it would have to be approved in the referendum. That would make fixing things like this more difficult. So I don't think it's a good idea. Sometimes things have to be fixed, and why make it more difficult to fix it? Okay?
Thank you very much. All right, we have any
Just
other?
as a heads up, that actually is on the agenda item for April.
And just furthermore, one quick question for our attorney, and thank you for the respectful way that you laid out your thoughts today. We appreciate it. It's always much nicer to receive that type of correspondence. If you were in a situation like this, whether it was his house or my house or Terry Brown's house, if our house through an emergency situation, hurricane, something else like that, blew away, would we not be able to rebuild it to the structure that it was?
You wouldn't.
I'm asking the attorney.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, please.
So a couple thoughts. First of all, there's a grandfathering provision in the code. So if there's an act of God that destroyed your property, you may be able to rebuild. Without looking closely at that grandfathering provision right now, I can't tell you 100%. What I can tell you is in the town's code at section 64-7, there is a town floor area ratio overlay. And what that provides for is if your total lot size is less than 7,500 square feet, you're able to rebuild to a maximum square footage of 2,700 square feet. And this would include those properties that are between Anna and Corinne Street on Old Ocean Boulevard. The only issue is that the lot size and lot width of most of those properties, not all of them, most of them, do not comply with the total lot size and the total lot width that's required for residential estate zoning district. So you would have to get a variance from those two issues, but under the overlay, you could rebuild to the maximum 2,700 square foot.
Thank you for the clarification.
Carolyn Cassidy, 7 Hudson. I'd like to take this opportunity to make some comments for the benefit of the public and the commission. I'm making these comments for the record. I had hoped to avoid this forum, but I have come to realize that it's necessary in order to present the truth. Running a positive campaign, in my understanding and my experience, means talking about your accomplishments and your goals, not spreading lies about your opponent or opponents. I am specifically referring to the outright lie, for lack of a stronger word, that I am in favor of high-rises on the beach in Ocean Ridge. When I directly confronted my opponents about this lie recently, they aggressively responded with illogical references to statements I made at the candidate forum. For the record, let me correct this fallacy, this fear-mongering, if you will, with the truth. I am not in favor of high-rises whatsoever, or any irresponsible development that threatens the quiet, unique, seaside nature of our community. As a matter of fact, my position against high-rise development in a small residential town goes back decades. I have a history of fighting big developers. Tim and I were part of a grassroots effort in 2000 in Pelham, New York, where we successfully fought a big New York City developer from building a high-rise in our small town. The New York Times covered this story. You can look it up. It would have threatened the character of our community and overburdened our neighborhood school system. But we did it. We united people from both sides of the political tracks for a common goal, preservation of our town. Tim successfully ran for office and ultimately served as mayor. Another successful grassroots effort that we were involved in Pelham was to keep and restore our single-screen movie theater. We saved it from being sold, razed, and redeveloped. It is still thriving today as an educational film house in its original restored historic structure dating back to the 1920s. I still serve as an emeritus board member for the Picture House. So get to know me, I am not for high rises. Most importantly, however, the climate on this dais is toxic. This must change. The buck stops with you, the elected or appointed policymakers and leaders of Ocean Ridge. You cannot hide the attrition at Town Hall or the floundering morale or blame it on anyone else. Whoever is sitting up here a month from now is entrusted and required to restore decorum, civility, and respect to this dais. It starts here. The residents need and deserve it. You set the example. And please be careful with the lies. Call to mind a Latin phrase, falsus in uno, falsus in omnibus, which means false in one thing, false in everything. It is in fact a legal principle in common law that a witness who testifies falsely about one matter is not at all credible to testify about any other matter. Thank you for your time.
Hello, Steve Broughton. I'm representing Jack and Dolores Interpret. We did a brick paver driveway. We went through the whole process, installed, got the final permitting. Mr. Antorpet went to pull his final inspection. Mr. Antorpet went to pull his car in and cannot get it in. I spoke with Mr. Guy last Thursday and he requested told me to come here and speak with you guys to see if there's something we can do. It's a 6-inch swell, only one on the road, only one on the street that has to have a 6-inch swell in their driveway. All we're asking is that if you guys will allow us to have a less aggressive swell in the middle of in their driveway in order to get cars in.
Which road is that on?
Marlin, 126 Marlin. Now there's a driveway across the street that went in this summer also. Basically no swell at all in it. But ours is right across the street and it's a dip in the bottom of the car. Bottoms out, we can't even get a car.
Okay, what I'll suggest to you is that you make an appointment to come and speak with the town manager. You already spoke with Durrani. You had any input for these gentlemen? So I'm going to suggest you make an appointment and come in and speak with it because we can't solve your problem up here tonight.
Okay.
But I want you to go forward with somebody that can help you move
Okay.
forward.
How would we do that?
Call the town.
Call the town.
Yep, just call.
Lynn, what's the matter?
I'm sorry, Madam Mayor, my
Yes.
son's been in an accident.
Oh, my God.
Oh,
I need-
Jesus.
I need
All
to
right,
leave.
go. You need somebody to drive you? Are you
No,
all right to
I just-
drive?
Sure.
I need to go find out what's going on with him. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Oh,
She's safe to drive?
all right.
So just talk to the town manager.
All right. Yes, maybe give it a day.
Give it a couple days.
And you can
Please.
also reach out to us by email. The email address is on the town
Right,
website.
but that's
You can
her
reach out
direction.
to us and email and just keep us posted too.
Okay.
So if there's anything that we can do.
All right. Thank you for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Oh, my God. What else? Betty?
Betty Bingham, One East Ocean Avenue. I think the commission is not doing a very good job. I've been stopped by at least 5 people every day when I'm walking, asking what is going on in the town? Why are we losing so many people? I think there's some things we can do. One is, the big problem is the beach. The federal government and the state government both have a $500 penalty for even stepping on the dune. We have no policy. Our police cannot enforce the federal and state law. Therefore, you all need to put a fine, $100, $200, and go up to the $500. on people going on the dune. The other thing, the stoplights and bicycles and tricycles, motorized things on the sidewalk. We've already, how many people have we run down so far, just the one? It is dangerous. When I was a child, we had to have a bell on our tricycles when we were riding them on the sidewalk. These people come up behind you soundless. And if you step back, it will hit you. And I believe it's regulating a law that motorized vehicles can't be on sidewalks. We need penalties for it. Everybody has known that. I always thought you get people to do the right thing by putting pretty heavy fines on them. And then, so it's no secret. I hear the packs of bicyclists on Saturday morning. The first one gets on the go, 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 go. And 30 will go through this. If you stopped all of them, that would be $3,000 in your pocket without a drop of a hat. We need to have enough police so we can cover all of these bases. We need to have instructions. I think the people in the town do not have enough tools to do their job properly. And then, last but not least, I have had friends of my children. I didn't even know they were still at Ocean Ridge stopping and talking to me. And they also want to know what is going on in the town. Is it a drift? And they were particularly concerned about what one person referred to as Chicago gutter politics. And I would like us to come up with a better standard for the town. Thank you.
Thanks, Betty. Next. Ernest.
So can I ask
Do we have some,
a cheeky question here, real quick? I remember this from a few years back. There's no electric vehicles or motorized vehicles allowed on sidewalks, correct?
With the exception of e-bikes,
Right.
which are not regulated, they are
That's the new
exempt.
thing.
They're the fastest of all.
Just hasn't happened yet. All right, any other public comment? I thought so. Come on down.
Debbie Cook, 28 Tropical Drive, and also 5500 Ocean Boulevard. Good news is that I now have 71 signatures and emails and address of residents of Ocean Ridge that have used our beaches for customary and reasonable use and would like the end of the signs on our beach. So we're getting more. That's good news for me. The bad news is this election is, again, disgusting. I even went to Seaside Deli and found a letter on the door that was saying how one of the candidates was not allowed to go, I think, to Colony Ridge, and that other people that Carolyn got to go there. I mean, it's just like a little kindergarten stuff. And, I know that you said, the other candidates said all positive campaigns not do anything. And I haven't really heard any negative, except on the letter, it says over and over that these two candidates are together and they're aligned, and it's from their office. So I would say both of the candidates are doing negative campaigning. Thank you.
Next. Ernest, come, please.
My hands are sore from clapping.
Don't clap.
Hi, Ernest George McNally, 710 Northeast 7th Street, condo 407, Point Beach, Florida, known as Harbor Hall Inlet Club. If you go out the front door and you look across the water, that's my beautiful penthouse with windows that looks right over at the park here. All the things that I see. Anyway, I find it interesting that our club, the beach club, is Boynton Beach property and of course owned by us, and yet we constantly fall under the auspices and what some people say, the failed enforcement and failed everything of Ocean Ridge. And I know, Mayor, you know that when I come here, my primary interest is that park. That's why I moved here. And I don't know what would solve it if it means that hopefully this commission would consider getting yourself out of all the legal, what's the word, culpability that I see there. Because it doesn't serve you too much to have your police there. And really, we believe that the Boynton Beach Police should be there. And they should be enforcing all the rules that are posted, all the laws. No alcohol, no fishing, no dogs, only service animals, which doesn't include people who go to a psychiatrist and get declared mentally ill and bring their dog on the beach and say, well, you know, this is my dog that helps me sleep. That's not a service animal. And I know when I come here, people say, oh, you know, you're not being nice. I'm physically handicapped myself. I could have 10 service animals and give the physical reason why I need the animal. But when you have people say, well, I have it because, you know, I can't tolerate my husband at the dinner table without the dog sitting on the table. You know, that to me is not a reason to bring an animal to poop all over our park. And the other day, I was coming down the stairs on the north end, and there was like 7 psychiatric dog poop piles right off the steps. The 10 piles made a turn and went towards your beach. And I mean, these were the biggest piles. Mayor, if you saw these piles, these were piles, Mayor. So, and then the back end parking and the parking on the lawn and the alcohol wine bottles everywhere, broken bottles, the smell of marijuana, it curls my hair. You know I don't like my hair curled. The marijuana smell in our park is so bad, it curls my hair, Mayor. Oh, no.
Yes.
Mayor, I always want to thank you for the time.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ernest. A pleasure as always. All right. Any other public comment? Lisa, be careful. Come on.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. Oh, sorry, Lisa Rototo, 4 Hudson. I'm standing here before you as a concerned resident of Ocean Ridge. I've lived on Hudson Avenue for the past 33 years, so I've seen a lot of changes in those years. What was once a really quaint seaside community has now become a place of such discord. I've stood by these past months and have come to the realization that you, our leaders of our beautiful town, are behaving like adolescents in high school. The sheer nastiness of all the backstabbing that you are doing to each other only hurt us, the residents, in the end. Several of you need to get off your pedestals and get back to basics of where this town should be. The amount of ridiculous ordinances that have been put in place in recent years are just way too many. This needs to stop. You think you might be doing us, the residents, the right thing, but I feel like I'm living in a utopian society and won't be able to do anything to my own house in the future. I understand there need to be rules set in place, but it's just gotten completely out of control. And to our police chief, Chief Jones, I'm going to miss you so much. Gulfstream has hit the jackpot by getting you, and I know it's a great move for you, but you will be sorely missed. And congratulations. For our interim, support him as much as we can. I'm also sick and tired of how we treat the people who work in our community. When will it stop? I just hope that moving forward with this upcoming election, that we get candidates who want what is best for us as residents of this community and not what is best for them personally. We need to stop the lies. Thank you.
Any other public comment?
May I address the commission for just one
Would
moment?
you please?
So I just wanted to educate everyone that's present regarding the park across the street known as Oceanfront Park. Oceanfront Park is actually a park that's owned by a private property owner, the city of Boynton Beach, located within our jurisdiction, meaning that the city of Boynton Beach police department has zero authority or jurisdiction within that park unless we request their assistance. Why it is that way, I can't answer, but that is the fundamental legal issue that we face when we deal with challenges at that park, such as the city of Boynton posting their ordinances on that property, which do not apply to that property because it's not in their jurisdiction. As well as the fact that the police do not enforce rules of a park. We enforce laws and ordinances. So there are the biggest challenges that we face, not only in that park, but in any other park that's not owned by the county. And the reason why the county is a unique situation for us is because when the county wrote their ordinances, they specifically wrote in there that they can be enforced by any law enforcement officer, not just deputies of the sheriff's office. So the counties, we have a lot more jurisdiction capabilities in because most of them are located within our jurisdiction and their ordinances offer us the ability to enforce them. Therefore, all of their rules for their parks are within their ordinances. So they did it right. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody was clear on why we have the challenges that we have for enforcement in Oceanfront Park and why we're limited on how we enforce specific rules, but not all the rules.
Thank you very much. All right, we're end with public comments. So we have approval of consent agenda items number 1 through 4E. Town Clerk Avery, would you please read the consent agenda into the record?
May I stop here for a
No.
quick second? I have one question on that, which would be 4D, on the contracts. Because we just got that contract and I read into it a little bit. And I got a couple of questions here. So should we take it out of the consent agenda and discuss it afterwards?
4D, Public
I
Works?
think it was 4D, right?
4E.
The cap.
4E.
4E.
What's the best way to handle that? Because we're not going to approve it all together. He wants to have a discussion. Should we do everything but
Just
that?
clarification.
Without Lynn
Ms.
here, who's done the background.
Ladner being here, I can't speak to it. I don't know if Durrani may be able to answer
Have
your
you
question.
seen the contract?
I've just seen it as you've seen it.
Right.
I'm familiar with it, but I don't know if I can answer the questions. So perhaps the best way to deal with it maybe would be to remove it from consent if that's the will of the commission and put it back in a regular agenda item so we can have a full-blown discussion.
All right, but we won't really have that much information without Ms. Ladner being here, correct? But we need to get it done, right? So we're kind of in in space here.
The one thing I do remember Lynn stressing is they were piggybacking, number one, so
Right.
it saves money, and number two, Durrani says they're fine. So do we really need to discuss it?
Well, we are entering into an agreement.
You want to know the contract.
Until February 17th, 2024. This is a one-year agreement. We are clear that we're entering into a one-year agreement here on something that hopefully we have a different building official.
So let's move it to discussion, right? If there's questions, we'll move it to discussion so we can at least move forward on the rest of everything, correct? Does that sound good?
Okay, so I think we need to take a vote to
Change.
revise the agenda again.
I make a motion to move item number 4E from the consent agenda to regular discussion items.
Anybody want a second? Second. All right. Everybody in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Where are you, Steve? Are you aye?
I'm going with the flow.
Okay,
and,
so you
hopefully
meant
we
aye.
can discuss
Okay.
this quickly and end it.
All right, so you're an aye. All right. Motion carries unanimously. All right then, Town Clerk Avery, will you please read the consent agenda as amended into the record?
Adoption of the minutes of October 12th, 2022, special town commission meeting. Adoption of the minutes of October 19th, 2022, special town commission meeting. Adoption of the minutes of December 5th, 2022, regular town commission meeting. Approval of MOU with PBA regarding wages and vehicle. Approval of amendment to the police chief contract. Approval of acting police chief appointment. Approval of stipend and salary increase for town clerk. Approval of salary increase for public works.
All right, I'll entertain a motion on approving the consent agenda
So moved.
as amended.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right now, so we're down to regular agenda item, which 5 has been pulled.
No,
So-
Just to the extent, I think we still need to discuss.
Oh.
Direction to staff, whether or not to take any action to remove what was installed without town authorization.
Okay, so how are we going to, that's going to be agenda item number 5. We consider that under agenda item number 5. So.
So where are we moving the cap discussion to then?
We can do it.
Agenda item number 6?
Sure. Yeah.
Are we good with that, Martin? Agenda item number 6? Okay.
Just want to get clarification.
All right, so we'll need a little input without Lynn here on updating us on what we're going to be discussing. Who would like to, Randy? We're going to be discussing what has been put at Beachway and moving forward. Correct, Attorney Godot?
Correct. As you may recall, in the one-on-one discussions with each of you, Billy Armstrong had photographs of the area in question, and there was some sort of wood that was placed in there, obviously with the intent to perhaps reduce the erosion. The concern is that wasn't authorized by the town, and the question to the commission is whether or not the commission wants to give staff directions to remove that.
All right then, I'll open the floor for public comment, because now we're in agenda item, correct? Right behind you.
Stella, go first.
Thank you. Stella Cole, 204 Beachway. Yes, you're right, we did put type of wood and stairs there. The Beachway people paid for it. The reason we did that is because, if you know, I've been asking the commission since November, because of the storm, we could not get down there without danger. I've been asking about it, nobody's done anything about it, so we took it upon ourselves to fix it. I asked Billy Armstrong to please help us out. I asked Lynn to please help out. They were gonna get to it. Well, that's 2 months ago. So now we are where we are. If you want it out, fine. If you not want us to use it, then please put caution tape up there, because I can still get to the beach, but many others won't. It is a danger to the town. It's been brought up to you guys. You've done nothing about it. We take responsibility for it. You want to put it on my shoulders, no problem. But that is what's going on there. I keep paying a guy $10 to come shovel sand, and it's the same sand. We're getting erosion. We have pits in there, the roots. People are tripping. I'm tripping. It's a liability for the town. I don't understand what you guys don't get.
It's the first time I heard about it.
Me too.
I've been talking about it, Marty. I have been talking about the erosion with all this for the past 2 months.
All right.
Thank
So
you.
All right.
let's actually visit what
Any more
is
public?
there.
Wait, let's see, we're doing public comment first. I hear the clapping, but do we have a public comment? Here you
No
go.
clapping.
Yeah, we've had that conversation. Thank you, Ernest.
Terry Brown, Harvard Drive South. I'm a little confused. You're not talking about approving this $12,152.
Correct.
That's gonna come later.
Absolutely.
Okay. That stuff should be removed. It shouldn't have been there in the first place.
All right. Mr. Burling?
Peter Burling, 7 Osprey Drive. What was there before was a cut in the sand laced with roots, what you might expect from the greenery and the shrubs north and south of the cut.
After the storm.
After the storm, but before any of the, what I would describe, appropriate efforts to remediate a dangerous situation. I attempted to navigate that particular cut to the beach. I'm happy to say I'm getting a new knee in 2 weeks, but before that happened, I fell right on my face because the roots caught my foot. And I recovered, not a big deal, but subsequently I watched 2 of my guests do the same thing. What happened here is an effort was made, even though town council talks about this as a violation of some kind of regulatory scheme. What it was an effort to ensure that there was a safer way to get from Beachway down to our beach. That effort was successful. It has been successful for the weeks that it's been there. And as a taxpayer and homeowner on that part of town, I hope you don't do something different, because the last time we did something different, we had a big wooden long staircase, and every time we had a storm, we wound up having to repair it for several $1,000s. Less is more, they say sometimes. Maybe that's just New Hampshire, but I think the rule applies here too. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other public comment on this item? Ernest? Yes. On this item, your comment on this item.
Well, what else would I talk about?
I don't know, that's what I'm asking.
Start the clock.
Kelly, hit it.
Really? Ernest George McNulty, 710 Northeast 7th Street, Boynton Beach, Florida, condo 407, also known as Harbor Hall Inlet Club. And of course, we are, as a city, as the ex-chief stated, a private ownership. And just like you're talking about the stairs and the access and doing things with permits and without permits, and certain people want to go to the beach and the signs say no, and there's always arguing going on here like I don't think I've ever seen it. But it's, let it go on, you know, I think it's all wrapped up in politics and all kinds of stuff. So here we are. A lot of people are getting injured with a lot of things along the Ocean Ridge water beach. The beaches, I know, you're asking people to come down broken steps, things that have signs. And I don't understand when you mention code and law, and you say that no law applies except Ocean Ridge law. That's not true.
Ernest, do you know where Beachway is?
Yeah.
You know where Beachway is?
I'm not talking to you.
Your time's going.
I know, but why is he interrupting me?
Hit it.
So the idea is, whenever you come here and you talk about these beach issues and access and everything, it's like an internal battle going on here between the residents and the politics and the police and the, why can't you just solve it? Why not? And the last thing I'll say is I don't agree when you say that certain laws that apply to, let's say, access to the beach, where a private owner has a deed to a property and they put up a sign and the town is not maintaining what they're supposed to maintain, these constant battles create horrible liability for the city, like this gentleman who's gonna maybe get a knee replacement. But that's not the only thing, you know, a lot of people are getting hurt and the last thing I'll say is if you wanna say that people wanna come down these broken stairs at all costs because they like doing marijuana and alcohol on the beach, let me tell you, those are not local laws, those are federal laws. First of all, marijuana on any beach in Florida is a serious offense. I'm out of time.
You are.
Can I get an extra 10 minutes?
No. Good try, though. No, we're done.
An extra 5 minutes.
Now you're over.
Now.
Thank you.
Okay, Mayor, thank you.
Mr. Asali? You know we're on Beachway, right? We're talking the Beachway issue?
Yes.
Okay, just check.
Okay, I'm Nicholas Arsali, 6017 Old Ocean. And I don't know really the legal purpose for this gentleman to come in here and wasting everybody's time. He doesn't live here. I don't believe you guys should let him discuss this matter.
We do. That's part of the deal with public comment. We cannot say if you live here or what have you. Believe me, we checked it out.
Well, that's, I
I
have
know.
an issue with it, but I understand, but this is not, if he's not living here, it doesn't affect him. Me as a resident, I don't want to sit here and listen to all his arguments and all this stuff, so I don't think I have right also to say, well, he's not have right, so it should be something to look into or not allow. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Nick. Any other public comment on the Beachway issue? Okay, I think we're closed and we can have commission discussion.
Okay, so.
Okay, I was going to go with Christine first. Go ahead.
Well,
Go
actually,
ahead.
I live there.
Yeah, we know.
So here's what happened. The storm comes in, just what Peter said. A rut is carved into the dune. Literally, I'd say 4 or 5 feet deep. When you come over the top of the dune, it is still existing, did not get wiped out. There's about a 30-degree angle down to the beach, right? So 30% of the people using that walk after the storm, 30% are Beachway neighborhood, which, by the way, the Beachway neighborhood extends all the way to the intercoastal. The other 30% were Boynton, and the other 30% were residents across the town who could not get a permit to repair their access to the beach, so they joined us down at Beachway. Now, that's a lot of traffic. So every single day we watched as the gouge through the dune got deeper and deeper, more roots were exposed. It was definitely a hazard, but forget about the hazard. The dune was being cut in half. So what we did as residents, we did ask the town numerous times for help, no response. So and it was longer than 2 months, whoever said 2 months. So what we did as residents, we all got together, we got some shovels, we went down to the beach, which you probably noticed is extremely wide because the sand that was in the dune is now on the beach. And we shoveled a lot of sand from the beach back into this gigantic rut to fill it, okay? It worked very successfully. Now people could come off the top of the dune and go down a much gentler decline. That worked for about a week, but we noticed that with the foot traffic, the sand was cascading downhill, which, is physics. So we went out and got, I think it's 3 4x4s and simply put them in the sand. They're not attached, they're not cemented, they're not rebar, they're nothing. They're embedded or pushed into the sand to stop the cascade of the sand. They also act as steps. So that is what has been there for, I guess, a couple of months now. Very successful. No one has complained. And Stella's right, we do have to hire somebody twice a week to come for $10 and shovel sand back up there because some sand is still escaping. So we're looking for a permanent fix. But in the meantime, to call this construction seems a bit large, let's put it that way. So I would suggest we leave it as is till we come up with a permanent fix.
Okay, Martin? Some input here?
That's it. It's great that the residents actually got together and tried to fix the situation that, obviously from the hurricane and the water that came down that way, destroyed the dune. It's imperative that we keep the dune, healthy. And obviously when you have foot traffic, that foot traffic does take the sand down. We need to find a permanent fix for that.
Yeah.
Definitely do, if for nothing else, to preserve the dune. It's a public walkway, it's being used by a lot of residents there. So that thing needs to get fixed on a permanent basis. I'm worried about the legal liability that we're creating for the town. If nothing has happened in the last 2 months, hopefully nothing is going to happen next month. But we definitely have to figure out the fix for it. And I don't know if it actually works that steep on Corinne, on the walkway over the dune towards where the steps are. I think we've done it also on Thompson. We used the ePay maps. And those are actually, they're staked into the dune. I don't know if you can use them on a steeper incline, but
We believe it's too steep.
it might be too steep. But there, I mean, listen, if it's too steep, then we might have to go back to stairs just to get the last steps back.
Well, before Lynn had to leave, she mentioned this, both Billy and herself are reaching back out to the DEP to get alternative structures, let's not call them structures, alternative pathing, because they do like paths over structures. So that process began today, actually, Friday or today. So I would suggest we wait until Billy, Lynn, and DEP come up with some alternative solutions. The solution we had previous to the storm worked, and it's very similar to what we're trying to replicate here.
It's just that if the dune got washed out during the hurricane, we might have to look into that too, to make sure that this is not happening on every other hurricane where we have major rain events. Because if it happened before, it's probably gonna happen again.
Vice
But
Mayor?
there has to be, we have to find a solution for it, because the dune is critical to that section and pretty much to everyone.
Okay, I agree with everything that was said. Unfortunately, I don't think if you live outside of our town, nobody realizes how detrimental Nicole was to all of our erosion, whether it was a private beach or whether it was one of our public crossovers. Down at McCormick Mile, we actually had to build similar stairs, but it's on our private property, which is the difference, because there was a 6-foot drop. So you could get down to the beach, you just couldn't get back up, no matter how nimble you were. So, I mean, but this, I'd like to see this as part of, I agree there needs to be a permanent solution, but there's more than just one need for the permanent solution. I think there's probably other areas in town that may have this similar situation. I do not know. I only know the beach that I go to, which is, so I can't speak to that. But if it is a trip hazard, the last thing I think this town needs is any type of liability. And if it needs to be temporarily closed to avoid that, like Mrs. Kolb suggested, I know that nobody would probably want to see that as a solution, but I don't think now that it has been brought out as a public issue, if somebody were to trip, there is, from my understanding, because it is a public right-of-way, there is liability. Is that correct, Attorney?
Madam Mayor?
Please.
That's correct. I mean, the alternative, which I don't favor saying, but it's put up signs to clearly post it as a hazard. But if we're gonna go to that, we might as well rope it off and not allow access to it, would be the most conservative route.
Yeah, the residents of the Beechway area do not want it closed. That's ridiculous. If you want the wood removed, which Christie, I also think is ridiculous, we'll just continue to put sand there and walk down the sand.
Okay, so here's my input. Obviously, from what I hear, this has come to us before. Obviously, anything put on the public path needed to have a permit. We're past that stage. Looks like a trip hazard to me all day long. Do you have, Tarani, do you have any options as a temporary, if we remove those, or is there any options you could come up with as a temporary situation until we get to the point where we make an actual walkway here? Come on.
Can we do Anna Street?
Wait, let me hear what he has to say.
So, I'm gonna say maybe it was wise that I was never consulted about this.
Yeah.
DEP and the town actually has tried and tested solutions of having an elevated deck. And an elevated deck.
But that's a permanent later solution. I'm talking about now till we get to that point.
That is the safest solution in a situation like this. Especially being built at this time when the sand is low, it will allow the lower rungs to be buried in the sand as the sand rebuilds, and then over time, when we're gonna have seasonal washouts, it will go down and the stairs will be there all the time. It's not a safe way of doing it.
But what, do you have any suggestions temporary? If we can, no, because I believe this also is a trip hazard, but I really don't love the idea of closing it. So that's what I'm looking for, a in-between solution. Richard, do you have any input here?
I just have a thought.
Okay,
I mean,
let's have it.
If the concern is that this is established a tripping hazard and it wasn't done by the town, then can the town not just hire a contractor to do something similar to this?
That's what I'm wondering.
And then resolves the issue and it is
That's why I'm wondering, what could we do
allowed by the
ASAP?
town, and then the liability issue is the town's?
Right.
But, I mean, it appears that obviously this process is somewhat working. It's not 100%, but it's working. So if we just expand upon
A
this.
more professional version,
in a
so
more
to speak?
professional version where it's anchored and staked in some manner, fashion, if DEP and will approve it, then I think we can just expedite getting it done rather than delaying the process.
That's what I'm hoping, something we could do temporarily, because obviously we're looking at a DEP, Mr. Kirkbrooke was out there, looking at a permanent solution, but something temporarily so we can avoid the closing down, but avoid the liability too, because that could be a problem. So
You could limit the so-called tripping hazard, which, as I said, it's been 2 months, probably longer. The only thing that's really missing from that is a swag rope for the last 6 feet to the final step. Well, that is the area that's the steepest, right? So if you had, not the giant swag rope, like the smaller version of what's up above it, and just put the 4x4s in the ground, holes through them, boom. Then you'd have a rail, so to speak.
So we need somebody, we need a professional to come out, take a look, and come up with the ASAP. Similar solution, but something a little more professional with a permit, so to speak.
And we'll have to consult
And
whoever
expedite.
the new building official is when we get to that point to make sure that they're okay with it. And if DEP has approved it and the building official can agree with it, then I think this can be expedited. There's no reason.
But even
we're not talking
expediting
about-
it, right, but even expediting it, Christie, the concern of liability from now till expediting.
Yes, but the issue and why it was brought to the commission in the first place is because the solution that was obtained was the only solution that was given to the town, and it exceeded $10,000.
Right, I saw.
Therefore, taking it out of the purview of the town manager, if we can keep the cost under 10,
We could get right on
we can
it.
expedite this without having to come before the commission.
Okay, so what we could, but my concern again is that in-between period between removing before somebody gets hurt and expediting the new thing. What do you think, Christie? How could we do this that we could take the town liability out in that little period of time? Is there a solution without closing it?
My recommendation would be to post it as clearly creating a hazardous situation, and then you have at least a strong comparative negligence argument, should someone trip and fall
Okay.
and come after
All
the
right.
city for liability.
That's a temporary solution, and then we just, we agree to get right on the temporary solution similar to here till we get to the permanent one that goes within the DEPs.
And I can get with Billy tomorrow and have some signs made at the sign
Okay.
shop across the street so we can expedite it. There'll be temporary signs. We can put them up with temporary stakes, so it doesn't have to be a permanent
Correct.
solution, and it'll at least cover the liability.
Durrani?
And with regards to any construction projects in the town for the next 9 months, if you guys recall, some time ago, we actually had a 1-year permit.
That covers
that was
everything.
issued to the
Correct.
town. So basically, it's an open-ended permit for
Exactly.
a year that allows any town project.
Right, then we don't have to go through the whole process from the
Exactly.
beginning when they get
That's
to the
correct
permit.
as well. So once this is agreed upon, we already have an open-ended permit.
Yeah. That would suit this
The
situation.
construction of this,
All right, got any input on that? I think those are the way to go with what we have to work with here. Are you okay with that?
I am. I would just like to make sure that all the residents that are facing similar situations, that they come forward so we don't have to address this one by one by one by one.
Correct. Correct. Martin, what do you
I'll
think?
make a motion to post the sign, keep Beachway open, and find a permanent solution for the situation.
Temporary solution in between.
Temporary in between, but there needs to be
Right,
the
so that
goal is a
helps.
permanent solution.
Correct.
Second.
All right, everybody in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. Kelly, are we clear on that?
Yeah.
Okay. Convoluted, but I think we work this out so that it stays open. We make everybody aware of the safety issue, and then we're working towards something else. All right then, where are we? My goodness.
Is it now the building official?
Yeah, piggyback.
Yes, exactly right. Okay. So
If
agenda
I may,
items,
Madam Mayor, I might
please.
be able to short circuit the conversation. One of the issues that Commissioner brought up was in terms of a term for this agreement. The other thing we need to make sure is the proposed piggyback agreement includes building inspection services and building tech. We also need to make sure we have a building official.
Right.
Since we will be losing ours shortly. So what I would propose under the purchasing code is to allow the manager to pursue this as an emergency contract directly with CAP government. She has authorization up to $10,000. In the meantime, between now and the April meeting, we can work on a direct contract with CAP government to provide those services. And it would be sort of on a task order basis so that we could set a term. And the contract be good for a year, but set a term for what services we're specifically looking for to more tailor it to the town's need. And then we could pursue that as a best interest acquisition, which requires a 4/5 vote of this commission, since you'd be doing it without competitive bidding.
Right.
But it would allow us to get something in place right away, since we know that CapGov has these services currently available, and we need to start with them as soon as possible.
ASAP.
Can I add something to Christie? So I was looking at Martin's question, because we're committing to a 12-month, possibly longer contract. But Article 17.1, termination, if I'm reading it right, either party can give 10 days written notice of termination of this agreement. So Martin, your concern doesn't,
Yeah,
right?
That's,
Okay.
yeah, if that is the case, then.
Which is what was slowing down the contract in your mind.
Right.
Right. So that's gone.
Well, one of the other problems that I have with it is it doesn't address an actual building official services. They're building
Okay.
inspection services, and I want to make sure that we do have a licensed building official, because you can't have inspectors or plans examiner without a building official overseeing their services.
Correct.
So we need to make sure that it includes a building official.
Right. That's a priority.
Correct. So if that works for you, I will work with Ms. Ladner, and we will get that going and bring it back on April for your approval.
Any comment,
What are
Commissioner?
we doing in the meantime?
We'll pursue an emergency agreement with them to get them in here ASAP.
Right, to have someone. Everybody good with that?
Yep.
So that's just direction to the attorney to pursue that agreement.
Okay. Sounds
All
good.
right.
Thank you.
All right, so then we go on to staff and committee reports. Planning and Zoning Commission. I see Rick, I thought I saw Mark come in here somewhere.
Two of them.
Oh, there they are.
Oh, boy.
Okay. I'll start, you come clean it up.
Tag team, tag team.
Good evening, Rick Carey, Vice Chair of Planning and Zoning. We met this last month, and had before us a proposal for a zoning overlay. Now, as you're aware, the Planning and Zoning Commission acts in an advisory capacity, and any code changes are made by the town commission. This applicant is the owner of one property, but proposed an overlay zoning for the properties that are on the east side of Old Ocean, between Anna Street and Corinne Street. And there's clearly issues there, and everyone in the, on your dais as well as the Planning and Zoning recognize that. Unfortunately, the applicant pushed to move this forward. Initially was saying that they had to have it on your agenda for tonight. And we had what most of the commission felt inadequate time to fully address the subtleties and the issues there, while very sympathetic to both the one applicant and plus the other homeowners along that section. So what I would like to respectfully request is that you direct planning and zoning to review this at its next meeting so that we can come with a recommendation better able to serve your purposes than the decision we had to make, which was just denial at the last meeting. But we need to do that. We need your direction that it goes back to us.
So you're saying that denial is because you really didn't have enough information to know what's going on.
And what was asked for was a whole buffet of things, rather than kind of narrowing it down to some smaller solutions that work for the town and for the residents.
That section.
Yeah.
He's sneaking up on you.
Come on, Mark, you're not the bad guy.
Good evening, Mark Marsh, Chair of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Rick summed it up very well. I think what was the most disturbing was the fact that this applicant came in with almost a ready-made solution without any opportunity for the commission or anybody else in town to really look at it. I know it went to the Board of Adjustments and was denied there, but it seemed like a self-interest approach to an overlay district. And I think we've got to be very careful how we approach changing zoning areas. I know the area very well and I've done work there. It's a very difficult strip of land. And it was compounded by the fact that the new ordinance that was brought in a few years ago with the coastal control line as a reference for the setback creates a hardship. I think we all appreciate that. But again, the way it was presented, it was all or nothing. And as Rick said, I think it was a little bit egregious, the way it was put in. From what I saw, I've never seen a plan, but we saw the final elevation that was proposed. So I understand that final plans or final design development plans, as they're called, were done for the project without any previous, consultation with staff or anybody else, or coming to us and asking for an opinion. So I just caution the commission that this overlay district can set a precedent. I know I speak for the Planning and Zoning Commission that we're willing to work and see what hardships there are and look at reasonable solutions. But just to have this kind of rammed down our throat was not something we found very respectful. So with that, I'll answer any questions.
We're dumping it right back on you.
Everybody good with allowing P&Z to
Yeah.
spend some more time looking for a proper solution?
The one thing that I'm really concerned about with that district is, and I had that on discussion items before too. Every single property is 8 properties. Every single property that there is different. Some of them are square, some of them are elongated with long frontages and are not very deep. So it's almost like you need to create a solution for each individual property. And that is going to be very, very difficult. That's something that you guys need to look into. But yes.
That's a great point. I think the topography is quite different from each lot. But I think the discussions start, what reliefs can an owner achieve or be allowed to do and see. But I think an overlay district change is not the way to do it, personally.
All right, so we'll put it back in your lap and see what you come up
It
with.
may want a workshop. This may be a great subject for a workshop between the joint commission.
I have one further
As
comment.
we're advisory, I think it'd be good. Sorry.
I didn't mean to interrupt. I agree that each one of those properties are different. We've only heard at least directly, I may be off on this, from 2 of the other 7 property owners. So I don't want to create a district that sweepingly does one size fits all change for 8 property owners when we've only heard from 3. That would really, I think, open us up to being in a lot of trouble.
I think a start should be a petition, if they want to get a petition, and have all the owners, at least sign up for studying what the options are.
Well, let's see what you come up with.
Maybe get ideas from them. just really ask them. This
I
is
mean,
the situation.
this is not a property rights thing, this is just a matter of scale and proportion.
It's a very
And
unique.
the impact it's gonna have on other people. You all know what NIMBY means, not in my backyard, but I challenge some residents that are, supporting this. If this was next door to you, I think you'd have concern. And it's just a planning experience.
All right, well, good luck coming up with some solutions there. Wait to hear. All right, the next
So
agenda.
just for clarification, Attorney, sorry, Madam
That's okay,
Mayor.
go.
If the consensus we reached was to send it back to planning and zoning, then therefore it will not be on the April commission meeting. Is that correct?
Madam Mayor, if I may.
Please.
This item, the text amendment that's proposed is not on the agenda tonight.
Right.
Not noticed for the meeting tonight, so it's not before you for a decision. My recommendation is to have P and Z Commission at their March meeting to study this and perhaps come back with a recommendation at your April meeting, which currently is when the text amendment would be before you for first reading. If for some reason Planning and Zoning Commission feel like they don't have enough time, they can also attend the April meeting and request a deferment from this commission on the first reading if they would like to study it further.
Thank you.
All right, everybody clear? Do we need a consensus to send it back to P and Z? Because it's not on here anyway, right?
Just a consensus for direction for them to study it.
All right, are we good with that?
Yep.
Yes.
Everybody good?
Yep.
Mark? Back in your part.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Rick. All right, we have Town Manager Ladner's report. She's not here. God, I hope everything's okay. And it's right there in the agenda if anybody needs to read it, correct?
Yep.
Town Attorney Godot, do you have something to report?
Included in a backup for the meeting is the opinion that I issued regarding public comment that was made regarding texting and sending electronic transmissions during a commission meeting from the dais. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have regarding that.
I thought it was pretty clear. Do you have something
Yep.
you'd like to add?
No, I thought it was pretty clear, but I would like for you to expand a little bit further on that for. And no talking in the audience. That was
Speaking of.
that was right on cue. Most people don't unfortunately download our 55 to 85 page meeting and material back ends. So if you guys are like.
Are you texting him?
Sorry about that.
If you.
It's our
if you-
daughter trying to get one of them.
Gotcha.
Maybe it's an emergency.
Yeah.
Okay. So Attorney Godot, if you wouldn't mind just giving the QuickBooks version of what texting on the dais does or does not allow, because there was false public comment made and I was actually implicated in it, so I would really appreciate it.
Madam Mayor?
A short version.
So the public comment was made that it was inappropriate or illegal to be texting from the dais from a commission member. The rule or law cited for that was this commission's rules of procedure. And this commission's rules of procedure deal with public comment, which is when folks come up to the dais and provide public comment during a public meeting of the town commission. Texting from the dais is not illegal. Obviously, the only thing that prohibits you from texting from the dais is you can't be texting each other, as that would be a sunshine law violation. If the text concerns something that will feasibly come before this board for action, you could actually text each other if you wanted to have a drink after the meeting or something like that. Completely social and personal is allowed, but there's nothing in your current rules of procedure that prohibit texting or reviewing emails and sending emails while you're sitting on the dais.
All right, everybody clear? All right then. We will go on to agenda item number 9. That would be the chief's report. Do you have something you want to
Thank
add?
you, Madam Mayor. Just briefly, just wanted to remind, not really remind, but bring to everyone's attention, on February 27th, last Monday at about 1:26 a.m., we had a gentleman who one of our night shift officers spotted in the unincorporated portion of the county, just south of Briny Breezes in a suspicious vehicle acting somewhat unusual, began to kind of pay attention to the activity and obviously not so bright of the individual to travel from there and head north into Ocean Ridge. They should have headed south into Gulfstream.
Soon you won't say that.
And as they proceeded into Ocean Ridge, they did not have a tag light. So the officer was able to encounter them on a traffic stop for such a petty violation that then unfolded into the man being in possession of an AK-47 short barrel rifle with no stock, who then fled from the vehicle with the rifle on foot into a wooded area off of Woolbright and Midlane. So that is why you all had the experience of helicopters and drones and multiple police responses in that area, because the officers chose to make a very smart decision and not follow that gentleman into the wooded area, because that would have likely resulted in an officer-involved shooting incident or something to that effect. Officer Ramirez and Sergeant Hermery were the two officers who made those decisions. They did a very good job. They were successful in recovering the weapon as well as over 100 grams of marijuana from the bag that was with the weapon, and identifying the suspect as well as arresting his significant other who was in the car as well. So with all that being said, I just wanted to share that story with you and let you know that although we don't have the level of crime that they have in other communities on a daily basis, we still experience some of those events somewhat regularly. Other than that, the report for the month is, a regular report. There's not a lot of content. The EMS times and response times continue to be something that we monitor. Those reports are now being looked at on a monthly basis by the communications manager in Boynton to make sure that the response times are justified, and that if there is in fact some explanation for a delayed response, that they're addressing that issue, resolving it, and then giving us a report back for that. So that is being reviewed obviously as we speak. They did announce, the fire department did announce at the Briny meeting this past month that they are in the process of purchasing a $1 million software tool that will actually allow integration from the police side of operations to the fire side of operations, as well as take about 60 seconds off of response times by doing automated alerting to the fire station. So ultimately what that means is that when a 911 call comes in and you're requesting medical or fire services, as they're putting the data into the CAD system, as soon as it triggers an address and it identifies a type of call, the computer system automatically alerts the fire department and begins to open their doors and do other things that reduce their response times. So that is something that they're obviously looking at purchasing. Apparently they've acquired funding for it and they are proceeding with it. That will help reduce a lot of the time responses for us as well.
Excellent, thank you so much.
Can
Any
you
questions?
Can you relay a message to them? I still don't quite understand why, when they're triggering fire and it's a call from us, from the island side basically, why there would not be a notification to the bridge tenders to keep the bridges down?
They indicated at the Briny meeting that that is a normal course of action that they take when they know that they're going to be entering any of the island communities, and that they're already proactively doing that.
So they are notifying the tenders?
The chief stated that clearly in his presentation to Briny.
Can I make a comment on that since you brought it up? I talked to the chief
Well,
about it.
we've actually finished
But let us
public
finish
comment.
commission.
You
Let's
don't mind?
finish ours, yes, let's
Okay,
finish
but
ours.
This is important, what he just brought up.
Okay, let's finish our discussion. Thank
I just have one question. Did you catch the guy?
The guy was not apprehended, and we believe he jumped into the intercoastal.
With the gun?
No, he dropped the gun
Okay.
during, you
So
know,
he could
the-
swim? Okay.
but the reality is that good police work identified him and obviously will result in his arrest via a warrant, which is a normal process.
Right.
So he left behind the gun, the pot, and his girlfriend.
And his girlfriend,
What a
right.
nice guy.
Yeah.
Right.
In that order.
But he
Priorities.
did not leave behind handcuffs.
Yes. I had a question for you, Chief, and as all of us, we're just absolutely devastated that you're going, but happy you're not going too far down the road. There was discussion earlier about the EMT training and as part of your remarks, that has already begun in terms of making sure that we're covering enough officers to get us to the goal to have one EMT paramedic trained or certified person per shift. Where are we in that process? And, has money been outlaid, and have we gotten the money that was pledged to us from Starbright as part of the program?
I'll speak 3 issues very briefly. First, the BLS training is a requirement for us to proceed with the EMT training. So that was something that we did. We have instructors in-house to do that because our paramedic, Jimmy Pylon, was able to teach that course, as well as another instructor, Mario Galucio. So with those 2, we were able to teach that course in-house, and we actually certified not only our staff, but staff from Gulfstream and Manalapan. So we've, again, offered that opportunity to them. So that stage 1 doesn't cost us anything. That's just in-house training that's free.
And that stage 1 but it's not an EMS or a paramedic certification. It is just
Correct.
basic.
It's just a requirement in order to get the EMT. So that's
Okay.
a prerequisite.
So we're done with the prerequisite.
Correct. So now the next phase is ordering some specific equipment. Paramedic Pylon has actually had a direct conversation with Ms. Kolb, as well as I've had a direct conversation with Ms. Shines, and they both committed to funding the project. But at this point, we just want to see where the project is going. We want to make sure that there's a commitment by whoever the chief is that's assuming responsibility for the department, and that commitment is valid enough for them to make a donation in the amount that they were willing to donate, as that project was specific to the EMT program. They don't want to make that contribution, and I can't blame them. They don't want to make that contribution in the amount of almost $50,000 to a nonprofit that the town has no control over, in essence. And then the town decide 3 days later that they don't want to commit to the program.
Gotcha.
So I think it's just a good partnership and a relationship. And if anybody would like to, say otherwise, I believe the partnership, everybody is committed and remains committed. I think we just need to make sure that we continue to build the relationship, foster the relationship, and as we move forward, both parties will do so in that commitment.
Anything else? Oh, Carol?
I'm the chair of the Starbright Committee, and exactly, I'm going to reiterate what the chief said. We have made the commitment, we've decided that this is a good program, we made a presentation to you, and we're just waiting to see who our new chief will be, who our new town manager will be, and if the commission going forward is going to make a commitment to this, we're fully aware and ready to make our commitment.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Terry?
Sorry, I just wanted to, Terry Brown, Harvard Art South, make a comment about Martin's comment, and I've previously spoken to the chief about this. I have actually had occasions, for lots of reasons, for EMS to go to my house. And in the old days, when that occurred, maybe 10 years ago, they were really quick. I mean, less than 8 minutes. I don't know what you're saying the average time is. But recently, I witnessed twice with the traffic on Woolbright Road, the bridge up, the traffic backed up past the Publix light, trying to get over that bridge. And an EMS truck coming from station across from the McDonald's actually came into the other lane and tried to get up the bridge. Actually had to back out and go down to Ocean. Now, I don't know where he or she were going in terms of north or south of us, where I live, but you're talking a 10, 15-minute delay. So they do alert the bridge center, but if it's packed up, they can't get in.
Correct.
So people need to be aware of that. They live over here, they can't get over there to a hospital.
All right, thank you very much. Agenda item number 10, Town Engineer Report, was included in the package. Are there any questions or comments? Nope. All right, then we will go on to 11. Does the building official have a report?
I do. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. What I'd like to share with the community this evening is the Senate Bill 4D having to do with high-rise buildings and required inspections. This actually came out of a special session last fall. It was a surprise meeting that happened because regular session had ended. And as building officials, we were concerned that the matter was not addressed. However, the Senate did meet at a special meeting and they actually passed what I call a skeleton bill. I do expect that it will actually be fleshed out some more. There are a lot of things missing from it. But obviously it was a response to the, we call it? Surfside. And what it is, originally we only had two jurisdictions in the entire of Florida that actually enforced any type of mandatory inspections. And this was Miami-Dade County and Broward County. And obviously one of the places that we had that failure was in Miami-Dade. So we now have a bill in place that requires all 3-story commercial buildings and higher within 3 miles of the coastline to be inspected every 30 years and then every subsequent 10 years after that. Obviously, we are within 3 miles, so every high-rise building that we have that's, over 3 stories and over 30 years old will need to be inspected. We've actually begun the process already of sending out mail notifications. We will be sending email notifications, and I'd like to take the opportunity, if I may, to just read a list of 12 condos that we have. So if you are living in one of these, have a friend who lives in one of these, I would actually like you guys to communicate, because the requirement is for us to send it to the association, not necessarily to the residents of that building. And from time to time, things may change, so I want information to be there and for you guys to understand what's gonna happen. So I'll tell you what it is, then I'll get into a little bit of what the actual inspection should entail. Okay, so we actually have Crown Colony, which is 5011 North Ocean Boulevard, Diamond Beach, 5450 Old Ocean Boulevard. We have the Dunes, which is 6711 North Ocean Boulevard in the Plaza Condos, 6855 North Ocean Boulevard. We have Ocean House North Co-op, which is 6861 North Ocean Boulevard. The Ocean Park Mana Condos, which is 6520 North Ocean Boulevard. The Ocean Yacht Club, only the portion that is 3-story closest to the ocean is affected, and that is 5560 North Ocean Boulevard. The Portofino condos, 5855 North Ocean Boulevard. Ridge Homes Condos, 6590 North Ocean Boulevard. Tamarind Condos, 6665 North Ocean Boulevard. The Villas of Ocean Ridge Condos, 5900 Old Ocean Boulevard, and the Wellington Arms Condo, which is 6530 North Ocean Boulevard. And I'd like to mention that Crown Colony, it's only the building, again, in the back closest to the water, that's a 3-story that's affected. That has the mandatory, okay? Now, because it's mandatory doesn't mean if you live in a 2-story, it's not important to do. It's just that the state mandates that you do that. So we're gonna have the preliminary inspection is actually an inspection that is required to be performed by an architect or an engineer that is certified in Florida. And they'll actually do a visual inspection of the structure, looking for cracks, any type of signs of deterioration. And if they do find this, they'll actually include this in the report. The report is due within 180 days of when the notice has been given. So once that comes in, the engineer will make a determination whether the building is free from any visible signs and no repair is necessary. If that's the case, it's closed and it's the next 10 years again before that inspection is required. If not, then it goes to a level 2 where the engineer or architect is going to recommend that there's going to be remediation. And then you could have another 180 days to actually effect those repairs and complete any permits that have been pulled to effect those repairs, okay? So I can actually say from this list that I have, a few of them have actually had structural repairs done to their properties as well, so it should be a very easy process. Others, I've had promises that work is going to start soon, but I have not seen it. It's just a mixed bag, but I'll say overall, the town of Ocean Ridge has done a good job. And I mean, there's more to be done, but they still need to do a good job. In most places, they actually preempted. But if you do have a building that is less than that, even residential, please hire an engineer, have an engineer do an assessment of your property if you see cracks and you have any concerns whatsoever. The law is just to mandate certain structures, but it's a good thing to do even beyond that, okay? The other thing I'd like to address is my moving on. It's with mixed feelings. I have had a great experience overall in Ocean Ridge. I gained a lot of friends. And interestingly enough, I'm proud of the fact that some of the friends that I've gained started out as code enforcement. So, it was me delivering bad news that, you did some work that really needs a permit, or you did some work that needs to be revised, and it's probably gonna cost you some money. And through the process though, we were able to be respectful, and we're able to make properties better and improve the overall value of the town. Ocean Ridge is an amazing place. It's an engineering marvel. I said it, I will say it again. We're truly blessed. We are. Because some of the situations that we have could be worse. Hurricane Nicole came and we had some flooding. Again, it could have been worse. But we ought to use all these signs as an impetus to make some big changes. We need to make some big changes. And I think we all are well-minded in terms of what we want to do. I think we are very passionate as a community, and we are a very bright community, and a lot of intellectuals living here. But somehow we have to figure out how we can move quickly to deal with some of the big issues that we have. I thank you again for having me, and I'll be around. So that's it. All right, thank you guys.
Okay, then. I have my mayor's update here. I will read out to y'all. Firstly, I'd like to extend my deepest appreciation for the selfless service Chief Jones has given to Ocean Ridge. I'll try to get through this without crying. Over the years, the majority of residents here have expressed their gratitude for having such a fine man head our police department. The chief has shown grace under pressure these last years, as well as his never wavering sense of duty that has made him the finest leader we could have hoped for. I express these same sentiments to my very lucky friends in Gulfstream, Mayor Scott Morgan and Town Manager Greg Dunham. And speaking of grace under pressure, I want to wish Durrani Guy the very best in his future endeavor. You worked your hardest to bring much needed order and enforcement to our building department. Work diligently with our town planner, planning and zoning board, and the town staff to improve our process, which is what gives Ocean Ridge the small town charm that the residents appreciate. And while I'm throwing out much deserved praise for our overworked and dwindling staff, let me include Kelly, Rob, our building inspector, Billy and Chris, I know Billy's listening here, from our maintenance department, as well as the rest of the staff and all of our police officers. So when and if you find yourselves in town hall, please extend your gratitude to those you come in contact with for all they do to make this town run. Support from the residents is a very good thing. A reminder, although Lucy brought it up, that turtle nesting season began March 1st. The sea turtles are a protected species, and know that the county has the densest nesting beaches in the state. Palm Beach County asks for your residential lighting be turtle friendly. If you're not quite sure, pull up the ERM site and it'll tell you what that means. Basically, not visible from anywhere on the beach, and that no furniture stored on the beach between sunset and sunrise. So keep your eyes open for turtle tracks. Feel free to contact Palm Beach County Environmental Resource Management, our local friends at Sea Turtle Adventures, Gumbo Limbo Park, and or our own pro, Kim Jones, if you have any questions for them. As you all know, with our changes in staff, we are in a bit of a transition period. So I ask for your patience and courtesy. Folks from all over are listening to our meetings and reading our town's business in the local press. We can all do our part as we move forward and also encourage qualified candidates to consider working here, whether it's the CEO or the receptionist, by showing our very best and most respectful side. I've been speaking with a multitude of residents lately, and the overwhelming majority love Ocean Ridge and are happy to reside here. So working together towards a great future should be our collective goal. All right, so now we go to town commissioners' comments. Martin, I believe we had a couple here from you. Commissioner Vishwak, would you like to update us on the topic of adding the referendum to the next possible election to change our comprehensive plan language and procedure as to the supermajority vote or full referendum requirements for change to height, FAR, density of any property that lies within the town limits?
I will. Thank you very much. It's good to have this many residents here for this item. Let me give you a little bit background. So right now, as it sits right now, there's 3 people here on the commission that can change the density, the height requirements, and the floor area ratio. Floor area ratio is basically determines based on a piece of property how many square foot can be built on any property within our town limits, within our code. The height is set by us here, and it's in our codes. All of that is able to be changed with a simple 3-2 vote. I believe that one of the most important pieces that we have, the most important characters that we have in this town, is how we look, how tall our buildings are, how dense our island is, and how big the structures on each property are. It's the reason why we all moved here. We all came here, we looked at this town and we said, this is nice. There's trees, there's greenery, and the houses are within scale. We're facing a couple of issues that are mandated to us by the state of Florida. Not just state of Florida, by FEMA, federal government. Federal government gives us guidelines as to how high we have to be above sea level, and they're changing those based on the changing sea level. We just had a major push through was it last year? Last year, 1.5 years ago, when the FEMA requirements were changed and they, in some areas, dramatically increased. What that means is that when you look at an old property that was built in the 50s, it's pretty much at street level, where our street level is today. That's where the house is built. Then in the 80s, you had the requirement to 8 foot. So you see houses that are in the 80s that have a little uphill and they're sitting higher than the house next to them. Today, some of these requirements go up to 10 feet. That's why when you look at most of the new construction that is happening, most of that stuff looks massive from the street level because it is so high. And we have tried to keep the character of the town. I think Mark left, planning and zoning. We try to keep the character of the town as comfortable as possible without really over massing our properties, our neighbors, allowing them to build massive structures right next to a little ranch house. That is the height of the property. The FAR is how much you can put on it, how big the envelope can be that you can build. And then density comes into effect when you're talking multifamily structures, when you're talking condo buildings, how much can be built on a piece of land. Whatever that is right now, we here have the ability to change that. And it can be changed for one particular property, it can be changed in general. What we actually have done in the last 3 years is we have started to allow flat roofs, because that became an issue that most of the architects were looking at. They like the ideas of flat roofs. Homeowners like the ideas of flat roofs, modernized structures. And it's not if you like the building style or not, the architectural style or not. It is simply, that is what most homeowners today are building. And by allowing flat roofs, we have actually managed to bring the size of the house back down by regulating that you can't build a flat roof now to 36 feet. You can only build it to 32 feet with a parapet. That is our way of making sure that we're staying within reason when it comes to these very critical points: height, density, and far. And what I'm proposing here is that we are looking into, unfortunately, our town attorney advised that we cannot do it by referendum, otherwise we would be stepping on legal issues that we don't want to get into. However, we can make it into an ordinance where we are limiting our own abilities to make these changes, and by requiring that at least 4 commissioners here agree to these absolutely vital points when it comes to how our town looks. That's what I'm proposing today. We had it on the agenda for a while. It was pushed and pushed and pushed. Here we are today. Up for discussion.
Christine, you have some input?
I've been a strong advocate since before I stepped on the dais. I've been coming to these meetings for over 16 years as part of my small nonprofit. We were able to do something very similar to protect our police department from ever going to PPSO. So I believe that this is just an extension of that. It will help preserve our character. It will help with our sustainability issues and some other things. I have a feeling that FEMA, now they've gotten a little taste of the blood, are going to keep aggressively coming after and eroding our home rule as to height and other things like that. So I think this is a step in the right direction. I'd be happy to support sending it to P&Z as soon as possible.
Steve?
No, I'm not a fan. I've been through this at least 3 times in the past year. I'm not a fan. Been through this at least 3 different times over the past 12 months about supermajority. Supermajority removes the word democracy from the equation because you have 2 people looking for the majority. And also the town has comprehensive plans, codes, P&Z, architecture review. We're pretty locked down on FAR. We've gone through this numerous times. I'm not a fan. I don't see the need to discuss it further.
Okay, so Christy, the deal is no referendum, right?
Correct.
Okay.
The legislature put a provision in chapter 163 that really limits your ability to take any kind of land development type of regulation and put it in your charter.
Okay, I understand that. Yes, this has come around for a while, and I've never, I listen, I pay attention to where we're going to go with this. I understand the concept of this is a big deal. This is not just your normal, usual, let's make an agreement on what we want to go forward with. I think this is a big deal when you start talking about changing things that would change the entire face of the town. So looking at a supermajority, I think beats just how the dais changes every few years for something this important. So I could definitely get behind this in ordinance version, correct, Christy? That's the way we would have to do this?
Correct. So you have 2 options. That you can do a regular ordinance and put it in your land development code. You could also do an ordinance to amend your comprehensive plan, which is a bigger process to go through an amendment to your comprehensive plan, but you could look at putting something in your comprehensive plan. That way, all land development regulations must be consistent with what is in your comprehensive plan.
So either way it goes to P&Z, or if it's, okay, so either way it would go to P&Z, and that would allow you to possibly advise them on the difference between regular ordinance versus changing the comprehensive plan. So I have no problem with sending it to P&Z to look at with your oversight there.
Doesn't the comprehensive plan already deal with this?
No, right now, your comprehensive plan doesn't address anything with regards to like making a change to density, bar, or height. The comprehensive plan has the required elements that's required by state statutes, like your future land use element, your transportation element, your water and sewer element, those types of things, and it talks about your goals and objectives in each element. There's not a provision that I'm aware of that specifically address if you're going to change these types of things in your zoning code requiring a supermajority vote.
The only one that I know of is within our flume, we have a cap limit on the number of parcels
Yeah.
to be built, but I believe that everything else is silent.
All right, so,
Can I just,
yes, go
can I
ahead.
just address the,
Go ahead.
the issue of the 3-2 circumventing democracy? There is certain things that I think we can all agree on that are very, very important and need to be protected. They should be protected with more than that. We do it on a very simple thing. Any amendment to the Constitution of the United States has to be by supermajority. If you impeach the President of the United States, that has to be done by supermajority. We have this in place. This is perfectly legal within the framework of a democracy. If we all agree that this is an important thing to our town, we can certainly make that happen, and I'm willing to give up my powers in order to make that happen.
So we could give consensus to P and Z to look at this with your direction as to ordinance, comprehensive plan. They come up with something, and it comes back to us for a vote either way anyway. So,
So we're
No-
gonna do
no
a
harm,
3
no
to 2, a 3 to 2 vote to create supermajority.
got a problem?
Think about it.
Oh, I did. All right, does somebody want to give us a consensus here?
You
What do you
have
think?
consensus for me.
Me?
Consensus.
The no. Okay, so we will send this off to P and Z with your oversight there to make some suggestions. And then it will come back
Thank
to us. and
goodness
take
they
it
have
from
left, else they would really not like us right
there.
True.
Okay then. Next, we have another discussion item. Let's see, regarding long-term infrastructure, water distribution, potable water, septic to sewer, raising seawalls, and increasing the general height of the road infrastructure. Commissioner Bieschlak, would you like to update us on this one?
Yes. Same thing, we had that on the agenda for a couple of times already, and now it's been moved and moved and moved. This is something that really comes back from the days when we have to look into things like septic to sewer is pretty much on the agenda for us. That's something that needs to get discussed, that we need to do. The state is most likely going to mandate it for us either in the very near future or at least in the medium future. We had a citizens committee that has studied this whole thing. We have still ongoing discussion items or discussions with different towns about this on various levels. If we're discussing septic to sewer and we're all agreeing that septic to sewer is coming, at the same time, we should really be looking into the entirety of what needs to get done. We have to fortify our island here in order to maintain this island. Looking down the road, we can't be doing this, what we have been doing of looking in the next 2 years, 3 years, election cycles. We have to be looking long-term. And the long-term planning is pretty much, when it comes to these issues, is a 25+ year project. And I understand that I ride motorcycles. I'll probably not going to see this thing. But it is something that keeps the value of our town. If we don't have any solution for how this town is going to look 25 years from now, there might not be a town. It might be underwater. We have already several streets, Hudson, Coconut Lane, that are super low. We need to address those issues. Ocean Avenue this year alone, I think closed twice or three times. Because of king tide. King tide, a rain event, and Ocean Avenue is closed. Ocean Avenue is our line. If you ever have a medical condition and you need to get over the bridge, you need to get to a hospital, well, now you have to travel down the road in order to get over the bridge. It's just not feasible. We see already what is happening, and we have to be proactive about this. And what we need to do is we need to create basically a 25-year plan, and then with that 25-year plan, address things, septic to sewer, our entire water infrastructure. How do we deal with seawalls? And what was the other one?
Road
The
elevations.
roads. Some of the roads absolutely have to be raised. Coconut Lane is halfway underwater in a major event. So, and we had a Hurricane Cole where I think Hudson was impassable and Coconut Lane both. So towards the end of Hudson and Coconut Lane, if something would have happened to the residents down on that end, the police and the fire department would not be able to get there. So that's something that needs to be addressed because it creates a hazard to the residents that live on those ends. And again, we need to have a comprehensive plan for that. This is what I'm proposing here. It's not really anything that that we have in place, but I think we need to agree to it, and then move our engineering staff to create some scenarios as to how and what we need to do in order to move forward.
All right, Commissioner, you have some input on this?
Well, I mean, one of my first initiatives when I got on the dais was to work with our staff to create a 5-year CIP plan. The town had never had a CIP plan, which I found kind of incomprehensible, but I had just come from a Gulfstream meeting where they had established a 10-year, $10 million one. And I thought, well, darn it, if they can do it, we definitely can do it. So, but 5 years, and we're 3 years into that 5-year planning horizon. And every year when we make tough budget decisions, some of those projects have been terminally put on hold or reprioritized. So I agree, yes, long-term planning is something that is important, and I like the concept of doing it in unity rather than, addressing it one by one. We had to address the hydrants because they had to be addressed. But I mean, infrastructure overall, I think a 25-year planning horizon that has 5-year intermittent goals is something that is well worth it for our long-term sustainability. I live in the north end of town, and when Ocean Avenue Bridge was closed for 26 hours during the storm, it's kind of a frightening thing because all of us did not evacuate. And if that storm had moved from a Category 1 to a Category 3 or 4, and we weren't able to use our main evacuation bridge, it could have been, a big problem for all of us, including the staff that would have to, in some attempt, try to rescue us. So I am fully for planning. I don't think you'd find anybody that says they're not for planning.
Commissioner Cos?
I believe Lynn, the town manager, is all over this. She's brought to my attention numerous times.
Microphone.
I'm sorry. Lynn Ladner, the town manager, brought this to my attention numerous times over the past few months. She's a big fan of this. She's already started working on this, and sure, to have a plan is fine.
Yeah, I agree. Strategic plan, master plan, whatever you want to call it. I know that many municipalities do this, and it's an organic plan. It changes as your priorities come up, but it's much different than the capital improvement plan, which is basically reactive versus proactive. And if we worked on a long-range plan with these projects, the big ones, say, that you brought up, Commissioner Bishlak, this could help us get our steps in order for future funding. Because as we keep hearing, we have to have We have to have the pro application, basically shovel ready. All these things we do not have yet because we do not have the staff. So if we made these priorities, that would help us with our future funding on all of these projects. So I believe we basically have a consensus here to set this up. I don't know how we're going to do that, maybe as a workshop, or do you have any suggestions there, Commissioner, so I don't take over here?
Yeah, I think a workshop would be a great idea. Get
Planning and zoning?
Get planning and zoning involved. This should be probably a planning and zoning workshop.
I think so
in
too.
in connection.
All right.
And that might be a big enough item that we might have to do a specific workshop for that.
I think that sounds good. When we did it in Delray, there were several workshops that were on what we called the master plan. And over the years, as you started moving forward with it, a lot of the projects would change. But nonetheless, you at least had a basic strategic plan. Yes, a vision. So everybody's on board?
Well, I like the word master plan. I think we actually did one in the year 2000, and I think 90% of what they had anticipated accomplishing, we still haven't scratched the surface of. And it was a consortium under, I believe, Mayor Khalil, and he selected, or community leaders from each area of town were selected. It's good read. Unfortunately, you could just scratch year 2000 off the top and write 2023. But I would really like to see it done in that type of format rather than, really bring in the residents from all the areas of towns, because, we all deal with similar issues, but sometimes the twist on them is a little different area by area. So.
All right, so we'll work towards. Christie, do you have something to add here?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Oftentimes, your strategic plan goes hand in hand with your comprehensive plan. You have an ear-based amendment that is due April 1st of 2024.
What base?
It's your
evaluation
assessment report. Update your comprehensive plan to address changes, because the last time you updated your comprehensive plan was 2017.
Right.
So I think, and that duty to start that process is really directed to your Planning and Zoning Commission by code. So oftentimes your strategic plan and your comprehensive plan should work together and play off of each other. So it may be a sort of a joint process that works together to come up with your ear-based amendment, your comprehensive plan, and then a strategic vision.
Work together on that because they're going to be parallel in their own way, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so we're all on board with that, so we can reach out to planning and zoning and look towards a workshop.
I would just mention that the town engineer has a wealth of information on this already.
Correct.
And the town engineer and the town manager could probably get a pretty healthy start before we bring in the workshop. So.
All right. So we're all basically in agreement with moving forward with strategic/master plan that works in with the comprehensive plan. Sounds good. All right. And where's our last discussion item? Vice Mayor DeHaseth, discussion of creating a 180-day work plan based upon town priorities.
Just a real quick synopsis. With so many personnel openings and so many projects, large-scale projects that we are somewhere in the middle of, I had reached out during my staff meeting and asked top staff, including our interim town manager, to please try to outline a 180-day overview of, what's in the works and if something needed to be reprioritized. And so she has taken a first stab at this, and a very good first stab. I still think we probably need to tighten it a little bit and add some dates to it. But I also think that not only is it good for us as a governing body, but it would be good for residents. So you could understand why maybe straightening your mailbox is not top priority when we've got these other larger issues looming. Having said that, I will continue to work with her, and as I'm sure my fellow commissioners. The only other thing that I wanted to add is I've received a lot of calls as to what is the status of the search for our new town manager and the lack of information that we seem not to be giving. And this is where I agree that sometimes communication, because our website is so poor, is not updated. So I just wanted to let everybody know real quickly. We are using Colin Benjinger and Associates again for this recruitment. The profile has been on the websites and it's been submitted to over 14,000 government professionals. The closing date for submission for applications will be March 24th. And on March 29th, CB&A, our recruiting firm, will report the results of their recruitment. That will then move us into phase 3, which is screening, reference checks, and credential verification. On the 24th of April, CB&A will forward these type of reports to the town electronically. And on May 1st of 2023, the town, as in the town commission, will select the finalist. I feel like one of the things that we did in error last time, maybe because we were so rushed, is those finalist information were not publicized on our website. And I think if they had been, it may have stopped some of the last minute issues that we had with some of the finalists. So I am fully supportive of those finalists being posted as much as is legally possible. That would move us to phase 4, which is the interview process and coordination. May 8th is being proposed as the town tour and the reception for the finalists. I would encourage, we had a lot of people come and meet the last round of finalists, and I would encourage that again. It's a time for you to just have a very relaxed, casual one-on-one with them, hopefully not a grill session. And then on May 9th, he is proposing the one-on-one full commission interviews and a possible decision. So that hopefully that gives some timing and some reassurance that yes, the town is very serious about this. We're moving forward. I think something similar is being set up. The chief would have knowledge of this on potentially looking at what is happening in the other areas. And obviously we announced tonight that CAP will be used as an interim to help our non-existent building department. So I just want to give that update. I thought it was important.
All right then. What time have we? Kelly, ready? All right, I call the meeting adjourned at, what are we gonna say, 7:22? 8:22, oh God, really? You have signatures for me?